Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Coast to Coast Traders Podcast. I'm Robbie.
And I'm flexing Joe. What's up, Robbie?
Joe, I'm a little bit under the weather, unfortunately.
Yeah, sound like
Um,
it.
yeah, I got a little bit of a cold thing going on. I don't know if that's from San Francisco or just interacting with the general public here. And got a little bit of a black eye going on.
From fighting the trend.
Yeah, unfortunately. Actually, well, if you remember, for the people that weren't watching this, or that were with us, I told you before stream last Sunday that I came home from SF and I was giving the dog some Levins, and my dog Alfred, he just whipped me right in the freaking eyebrow, and so that's what this is all about, really. It looked pretty bad this week, like specifically like on my eyelid is crazy coloring.
Yeah. yeah, for sure. I think you sent me a picture that like looked worse. Let me like pull that up real quick. But while I'm doing that, I have to ask, how did you arrive at the name Alfred for your dog? Is it like a Batman thing, or because that's the only Alfred I know?
No, but I love people names for dogs.
Fair.
My first dog's name was Max. Well, my parents had dogs, of course, and they were named people names. But like my first dog, I named him Max. I had a dog named Charlie. And then we got Alfred and we got Kelsey. I've never been like the Boots or Muffins kind of person, for naming animals. So
Yeah, look at this.
there they are, ladies and gentlemen. That's it.
Damn, look at this one. Damn. Pop pretty
Yeah,
good.
that was day 2, I think.
This is why you don't fight the trend. That's why you don't fight the trend.
That's why you don't. The trend ain't no joke, guys.
It's no joke.
It'll mess you up.
It's no joke. If Trump puts out a tariff tweet, you get out the way.
Yeah. Yeah, but how was your weekend, man?
It's good, dude. I am not gonna lie. I'm like super exhausted. We went to the Post Malone Jelly Roll concert last night at Gillette, and without traffic, Gillette's like 3 hours away. So we hit a little traffic, which was surprising for a Saturday. And it wasn't like traffic for Gillette. It's just like traffic in Massachusetts because, sorry to any Massachusetts listeners, but like you guys clearly don't know how to drive. Like I've encountered this every time I'm in Massachusetts. It's like, why can nobody drive in this state? Like it was just terrible driving there. So, but the concert was amazing. Funny story about that. Long story short, we just scoped out tickets that were still available for sale. We ended up like moving, to closer seats. And when we got there, there was like a girl and a couple like already sitting in that row too. And there was 4 seats there, so we were like, "Hey, we're gonna, we're sitting at 4 seats." And the girl looked like kind of like confused. And then my daughter was like, "Dad, I don't think they have seats there. Like she looks like confused that we're sitting here." And I'm like, "Okay." So I just like peek over her, and she's on her phone, and she's actively like shopping for other tickets and like looking at that section. So she knew what we were doing too. So I just like tap on this girl's shoulder, and it was already loud because like one of the openers was playing. And I'm like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And she goes, "Yeah." And she like kind of puts her ear to me, and I was like, "You don't actually have tickets to sit in this row, do you?" And she just turned and looked at me like stone cold and was like, "No, I don't." and
Nice.
And she was like, she couldn't have been maybe 21, right? She was a young girl and her boyfriend. And then I was just like, "We don't either," and just like gave her a fist bump, and she started laughing. So then like the rest of the time, as people were coming to find their seats, she was just always like looking at them, looking at us, and we're like, "We're good. We're still good to sit there." Cause like it was a sold out concert, but nobody, like those seats were like still up for resale, and they were up for resale for like $350 a seat. I'm like, who's spending $350 a seat for a string of 6 seats the day of a concert? Yeah. Like that's not happening. So they never,
a lot, dude.
So they never ended up selling, and we moved down, which is good because I got ripped off buying those tickets 6 months in advance. So next time I'll wait until it's a lot sooner. So
yeah, that makes sense for sure.
But it was a great concert.
What was the price delta between like when you bought them versus what they were at, like say within the last week or so, or at least when you were there for the same ones?
So I don't know about the same exact ones, but I know that like we could be significantly closer for anywhere between $75 and $100 less a ticket than what I paid. So I was just like, like I got bamboozled on this, like totally got bamboozled. Yeah. And that was my,
Mhm.
and I bought these tickets like around Thanksgiving as part of my, you know, Christmas gift, like towards like the family, just to have like something to do. And it was, and honestly, I don't regret that because it was like great to have something to look forward to in the coming months. Like, oh, we're gonna go to this concert, we're going to this concert, and like every once in a while, I'd just be like, oh, 2 months to the concert, you know, and everybody seemed really excited about it. And it was great. Like Post Malone was
Yeah.
awesome, in my opinion. It was way better than the Kendrick and SZA concert I took my daughter to a couple weeks ago. Way better, way better. So
Nice, dude.
yeah,
That's cool. That's cool for sure.
yeah, it was pretty awesome, dude. And Jelly Roll, like, yeah, obviously, for people who know Jelly Roll, like he's obviously very religious now and stuff, and he, you know, he's beat addiction and all that, and you know, I think he's been to prison, so he's a felon, he can't vote and all that, right? But he started out and he was like did a few songs and he started like talking to the crowd about doing like a prayer, and he like legitimately like said a prayer, and dude got like a standing ovation. I was shocked, like.
Awesome.
I was just
That's
this is different, you know, to see something like this. But he legitimately got a standing ovation doing this after doing this prayer. I was like, pretty sweet.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool. Well,
yeah,
you know what? Maybe it just goes to show that society's a little bit sick of like, you know, just a little bit of lawlessness that's been seems to have been going around and just like nonsense, general nonsense. But we won't get too much into that.
yeah, for sure. I agree. I was I also have to say really quickly too about the concert. Like again, it was a great concert. I was genuinely surprised by the number of like middle aged women and up. Like there were like some grandmas in there rocking out to Post Malone, which I was shocked
Cool.
by. My wife is laughing in the other room because like we were laughing about it at the concert. Like, damn, there's some old people getting
Yeah.
down in here.
Sounds like a good time, man.
Yeah,
Aside from the weather, of course.
yeah. We got rained on. It was and it was only like 45 or 50 degrees, so it was really cold. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to be in a winter jacket at a concert at the end of May.
Right. Yeah,
So
I know. Like, where's the sun? Please,
I know.
please, I'm begging you.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of things we're talking about.
Mm.
We're gonna like touch on some Apex stuff. We're gonna do
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about some stock stuff that we talked about last week, Elf
Mm-hmm.
specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of housing market update stuff. So what
Yeah.
do you say we just quickly brush on Apex first, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like a whole slew of people got like an Apex email about essentially getting prohibited from buying more evals.
Yeah.
I did not get
So
that email.
well, so you know, the thing is that I saw that was interesting to me was that the emails were sent with like a confidentiality notice,
Yeah.
and the dates that were given to certain people were like different. So like some people had like 5 days, some people had like 2 weeks or something. And it's interesting that they're making those changes. And obviously I know why is because they want to stop paying out uh people that are like what they perceive to be gamblers and stuff.
Right.
But I just don't see why they couldn't have had better policies earlier. Because I mean, obviously, what they want the gamblers because they're allowing 20 accounts at a time. So I mean, you created the environment that now you're like, oh, we're not really happy with what we've set up, and so we gotta pull in the reins a little bit.
Yeah. I think there's some it seems like there's some different things, you know, people are saying you know, explaining the 5 days of the trading system so you don't have to do the video like you once had to do. But
Mhm.
pretty interesting. Like this is what I found quickly that was like shared in the group, and like what was shared. There was a link that was um shared like with Reddit. So like this one is basically saying after further review of your account, we decided to allow you to stay in the simulated environment for now. You'll be able to purchase more simulated evals if needed. Your account should be enabled for evaluation purchase by end of day. And then it just says you've been selected for review. Write a detailed written explanation of your trading system or strategy you use, right? And so make sure you include the following: entry rules, initial stop and take profit, trailing methods, indicators used, and any explanation of the software or auto trading systems that you used. And you have to do that for the next 5 trading days after this email. Um, so yeah, and I mean, like they're asking for a lot of information.
Yeah,
And
and a couple episodes back, you and I we talked about the payout uh, scheme, I guess you want to call it. You know, where you get denied the first time and then you request only the new earnings on the next payout.
yeah, the tricky
And
rule
they're not
set.
going to do that. Yeah, so now they're not even going to let you do that. It seems, or well, you know, it sounded to me like they're aware of that situation. So now they're requiring even further trading before you can unlock the prior weeks.
Did they make that? Did they make that a final rule, or were they talking about
I
it?
Maybe they were talking, and it's hard for me to keep track of all this stuff because there's a lot of different props
Yeah.
um, coming out with all kinds of different changes and stuff. So maybe I'm confusing one or the other, but I thought they were enabling or enacting that, but it could be just in talks right now.
I think they were just talking about it. I think I know that I only saw something that it was like being talked about. I haven't seen anything about official rule change. And basically, what we're talking about, if you guys are out of the loop, is essentially if you get flagged for any sort of violation in the first, like say, trading cycle of 8 days, which would be basically improper improper risk management, right? Because you're allowed to like DCA and do things, but improper risk management essentially of you let the trade that you're in draw down against you more than 30% of your available balance. So for quick math, if you have a $3,000 available drawdown between like your account balance and like where it would be blown, if you let a trade draw down against you more than $900 without immediately or quickly correcting it, and then that trade like goes on to be like a winner, they're flagging that as improper risk management, right? And if you trade like excess size, so like you're only allowed, I think, 5 cons up until you get over like $2,000 in profit or whatever it is on a 50K account. And then you can move up in size. So if you're just like YOLOing full size, like right out of the gate, you get flagged. And so then basically what happens is over the next 8 trading days, what you would want to do is you want to trade like with, very tight risk, manage your risk appropriately. But all you need to do is make at least $500 over those 8 days. So you can make like, let's say $200 a day for the first 5 days. So you're at $1,000 balance. If you essentially just have like 3 break-even days and you followed all the rules, you're eligible to withdraw that $1,000. So you just put in a withdrawal for that $1,000. It should get approved. And then after that, it doesn't matter what you make in the next 8 days, as long as 5 of those days are over $100 in profit. Even if you only made $500 in that cycle, you should be able to withdraw the full $2,000 that you're maxed out at, because they're going to look back at, they're going to say, okay, we only made $500 this cycle. What happened the previous cycle? Oh, you were green, you were approved for a payout, so they'll let you tap into the total balance. And it seems like what they're talking about is that they're becoming more aware that people are just YOLOing out of the gate, and they're saying like, F it for the first 8 days, it doesn't matter. They'll trade real small the next 8 days, and then they'll trade real small the following 8 days and pull out all of that, some of that initial YOLO balance, and try to keep tapping into that.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, they haven't liked contract flipping when you're on pro accounts or PA accounts, right?
No, typically not.
Yeah, I mean they let people slide on evals, but not PAs. But it seemed to me like they were making more statements about account flipping as if people had been getting away with it on the PA side, or maybe that was just a reminder. But that's another kind of sad thing too, because like you and I have talked about in the past, like we're trying to, in a sense, game the system because we have to have certain consistency rules and this sort of stuff. And then naturally, if you want to prevent yourself from blowing up and to secure that payout, then naturally we're going to trade a little bit different once we're at those profit targets or goals, or like this, this close to a payout and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, on one hand, like I'd rather them just say you don't have to have certain amount of trading days, and then that would eliminate the whole flipping scenario. But I mean, they want you to trade those days because they want you to, potentially give it up and not have to pay you out, I think.
Yeah, the rule benefits the casino here and not the gambler, right? Like that's the easiest way of explaining it. It's not you, the customer, that benefits from this. If you know you have to trade 8 days and you're trying to make a consistent amount across those 8 days, I've definitely succumbed to this pressure before, and then led to just like over trading and doing more damage to the account or blowing the account right than I should have, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm 4 days in, I've made $1,500 in 4 days, I'm doing well. Day 5, you start out with a loss, and then it's just like you just fall into quicksand, right? Your
Yeah.
one loss leads to 2, leads to like, oh shoot, and then they're just hoping that you'll do something dumb, right? They're hoping that you'll size up to try to make your loss back quick, which then
Yeah.
they would flag you for a consistency rule, right? So you can't do that.
Mhm.
And like, there's two sides to that coin. I do say though, the fact that they would flag you for a consistency rule and that is another deterrent really is a good thing, because if you were trading your own account and you took 2 losing trades in a row, the martingale strategy of sizing up on the third trade is not a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely not. But one positive thing I would say that I saw out of all this stuff
Hmm.
is their statement about not joining any SRO and thinking that a more formal body should be
Hmm.
governing anything going forward. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I kind of I like that a lot too. I kind of also feel like there's part of me that wonders, is that an informal kind of like jab at Michael Patek, the CEO of
Mhm.
Topstep, is trying to, in a weird backdoor way, finesse himself to being like the absolute
The king
oversight
of
over
props.
props. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
yeah, so it's just like I could feel like, if because Apex is the big dog, right? Like, they're the ones with I think they hit the $500 million, $500 million in payouts, total payouts. They said lifetime.
That's wild, man.
It is an absolutely wild thing, right? And they've been at it for a number of years, but you don't hear about any numbers like that at Topstep. In fact, Topstep flat out told you, or when we covered that video, how few of their traders actually got paid. So,
Yeah, but on the same token, wouldn't it be so cool to know those same kind of stats for Apex? That
oh
would be
yeah, oh
wild,
yeah,
bro.
oh yeah. What if you had to guess? Because remember, Topstep was 12.5% of all traders got.
Yeah.
I think it was got at least one payout was the thing, right? So,
Mhm.
and then it was only, what was there? Only like maybe a couple 1,500 or 2,500 traders got more than 5K, and then
Right.
it kept dwindling down. I can't remember the exact numbers. You guys can go back and watch when we covered it. So, what would you think Apex was if you had to guess?
I think it would be less because uh, membership slash users are going to be greatly inflated by comparison. Because they're a much older company.
Hmm.
They were, in my eyes, the main game in town, and then on top of that, live trailing drawdown is harder to get a payout compared to a non-live drawdown with Top
Hmm.
Step.
Yeah,
At least for me, anyway.
Yeah, we should revisit this, because there was I have to try to find the interview, but somebody actually I'm 99% sure it was the guy who he was the king of resets, and Apex had done a video with him, and then he just recently was on, I think, like the Trader Lion podcast maybe.
Okay.
But he was saying that the statistics actually show that traders who trade in a live trailing drawdown environment like Apex,
Hmm.
where wherever your profit is at your high water mark, that's where your trailing drawdown goes to. um he said that they're more likely to actually receive payouts because they trade more conservatively, they use smaller
Okay.
size, and they lock up more profits, which I could see that.
Interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Sure.
I could see the logic behind that. And what he said was the counter argument to it was that the folks who are on end of day trailing drawdown are much more likely to just say, well, screw it. If I only have $2,000 worth of drawdown and I'm already down $1,000 on this trade,
Hmm.
what's the difference? Just let it rip.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. Very different viewpoints on that, but I
Yeah.
guess we're probably never going to know because I don't think that they'd want to disclose the numbers because the amount of people that are not getting payouts is a pretty staggering amount, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, I also remember seeing like posts on like Reddit where people were just getting like absolutely torched because they would say, I'm on my 100th eval and I just finally passed it. and it's like,
Yeah.
it's just like, whoa, like 100 evals and you just passed it. Like at no point,
That's crazy.
like at no point did you consider like maybe eval number 90, let me just YOLO one and see if I pass, because like, I mean,
Yeah, I don't. Well, maybe that's why they were not passing, is because maybe by the time they hit 90, they're like, okay, YOLO strategy not
yeah.
working for me. Maybe let me try to find some consistency. Hopefully, anyway.
Mm,
Uh, but yeah, like I can't imagine going that far, getting all that many accounts without having gotten a payout, much less passing one.
yeah, no way. No way.
Yeah,
Be too much.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Uh, really quick before we move
mm,
on to something else, unless you have something else to say about that.
no, go ahead.
Okay. Um, shoot, where was I gonna go? Oh, I was shipping the other day, and I was just thinking, because I'm always thinking about whatever and trying to relate anything I can to the stock market.
Yeah. He's
And
he's
something
like
popped.
he's like I was thinking, because I'm always thinking.
Of course. What else do you do?
Right.
But this Bible verse popped in my head,
Okay.
and it's Matthew 6:24, and it says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." And what that kind of reminded me of was, with regards to trading, is, are you going to be a master of discipline, or are you going to be controlled by impulse? And it made me think about fighting the trend versus joining the trend, which we've talked about in the past. Because if you're gonna if you're generally wanting to trade with the trend, but you think to yourself, and unfortunately, I was a victim of this on Friday. I'm going to take a counter trend just because I want to scalp it to this level. Then I'm effectively saying no to joining the trend when that opportunity comes, because I'm already, if I'm in this counter trade right now, I'm married to that trade idea, because I want it to work in my favor. And so when the true time to comes to join the trend, I'm still managing this trade. And so my bias is to let this current trade work, versus okay, let me just cut that trade right now, take the money, and then flip directions like I originally wanted to. And it also reminded me of a Ryan Holiday quote, where he talks about keeping the main thing. Because when we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to another. And so in this scenario, it's yeah, I'm saying yes to fighting the trend and no to joining the trend, the trend when that opportunity comes.
Right.
And ultimately, we want to be masters of discipline in the market, because discipline in whatever we do, versus let's say limit orders versus market orders, or following trading rules like risk per day, number of trades per day, hopping from account to account after blowing and stuff like that. Like all those things, um, like if you're saying no to discipline, then we're saying yes, potentially to recklessness and impulse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I hope somebody out there finds that helpful.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I did this lesson in the group one time, I remember a couple people saying something like, "Man, I felt like you were talking to me." And that was, and it's funny because I never had anybody in particular in my mind other than myself when I
Hmm.
was coming up with my bullet points and talking points and stuff like that. But that's the interesting thing about guilt or self-reflection, anyways. We're gonna focus on and hone in on the things that really relate to us when people are speaking.
Right.
And if they're talking about, you know, stuff that's kind of making you feel shameful, oh, that was me, or dude, is this guy talking about me or whatever? It's well, yeah, I mean, maybe, that's you just waking up to say, oh gosh, I need to focus on this and see how I can do better about that.
Yeah, that I mean, I actually had those exact same thoughts, like, because you and I have talked and discussed like my my trading struggles over the last like couple weeks, and so like part of what you just said definitely applies to me in terms of being disciplined and not impulsive, and sticking to the plan. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one, man. That's a really good one. But I think in the overall context of it, right? Because like it talks like if you're talking about being enslaved to money, it's not just about like the actual money too. It's about like using the money in the wrong way, right? Like is that like kind of the furthering of the context, right? Like because you're not like
Um.
because like there's nothing wrong with, I think what it's saying, like just to be clear, like we're not saying there's anything wrong with making money while also serving God, right? It's just about like then what do you do with it, and then how do you do it?
Well, yeah. I think in the greater context is that um, people and we're not turning it into the Coast to Coast Bible podcast, but just in this one episode, I think in the greater context is that it's people that are very successful. I think I perceive that they think very greatly of themselves and they're like self-made, and there's not necessarily wrong with being self-made and
Yep.
stuff. But like when you start to have like a really big ego and you have all this money that you can feel like you can kind of do whatever you want with, and I mean, let's face it, people with a lot of money have a lot of power and they can kind of break the rules pretty easily. As we've seen with people in high places that don't seem to go to jail for doing stuff, or
Right.
they get out with a slap on the wrist. So that's how I perceive that.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff, dude. Good stuff.
Yeah.
You
So
want to
should we look at the stock charts?
yeah, dude, you want to move on to well, actually let's you want to look ahead at this week's news really quick too?
Hmm.
So this week's news, we got ISM manufacturing at 10. So there's no pre-market news tomorrow. These are Eastern times, market times, okay?
Yep.
So ISM manufacturing PMI at 10 a.m. So really probably a good thing to wait for that first 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes or so to let things settle off. If you're trading, it might be fairly choppy though, as we have Fed Chair Powell speaks, right? So I know that like usually when people see this and they see the red folder, it's concerning. However, I always encourage people to actually open this up and look at what he's doing. So he's delivered opening remarks at the Federal Reserve Board of Governors International Finance Division conference, right? So there's was like a time where he was going to speak, I think at like 3:30, but he was at like some like college like special conference for something, and he delivered no market remarks like whatsoever. And
Hmm.
the day just like progressed as like a normal day. It didn't matter because but I remember people expressing fear about, oh well, Powell's gonna speak at 3:30, and it's like, yeah dude, he's really just had like a roundtable discussion with like a bunch of college kids. It's nothing.
Yeah.
He was not offering any actual market guidance. So this one seems like it could be important.
Before you move on to Tuesday, really quick,
Mm.
I saw a post on X, somebody speculating that he's going to resign soon
Somebody
and
shared that
he's
in
going
the
to
group.
announce it Monday. Yeah, yeah, that's where I saw it. And that would be kind of wild, and I really don't know how the market would react to that, but that'd be pretty interesting, wouldn't you think?
I think it would be very interesting, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because he's definitely defied Trump about saying that he has no authority to fire him and that kind of stuff. So I just don't see why he would.
No, and then also like when you consider the whole monetary system, right? The whole United States dollar and the fiat system and all of that, and you start to realize that everything in the government is controlled by money. It's all run by money. It's all about money, 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 right? Like look at the whole Doge thing and that whole the controversy behind it and everything that's going on with that, right? It's all
Yep.
money. It's all money, right? So for Powell, who's a 70-something-year-old man who doesn't have much more time left anyways on his life, I'm sure, but he's probably thinking that, but also just on his assignment, his appointment to be Fed chair, which
Yeah.
it looks like Trump wouldn't reappoint him because I think we should probably search that. But what I'm trying to say is, long story short, is like this is when does Powell's sermon? Look at that.
It just says, yeah, I did the same search and it says did his second term on 2022, but it doesn't show when it ends at the moment.
His new term ends on
Oh, May
May
15th
15th of 2026.
next
Okay.
year.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he's got another year, right? And so the point I was just gonna like try to get out really quickly is that this is like probably the pinnacle of his life, right? Like the apex appointment, you know, the his legacy as the chairman of the Federal Reserve, which really is what controls everything. Like,
Yeah.
and then we've already kind of seen he's just like doesn't care and is going to be happy to just be in this pissing match with Trump. So like, like there's no leverage or reason for him to resign other than if he, you know, it would be unfortunate, but maybe had like a very serious medical condition and didn't think he had much time left and wanted to spend time with his family. If I was in his shoes, I'm just thinking this out. That would be the only thing. Either that or like I knew my wife had very few months left and I was just gonna be like, okay, like I'm gonna go with her, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But like outside of that, you know, like you said, given his age, I don't imagine that he wants to be like working too much longer either. So it makes sense that, you know, come 2026 that he's, you know, totally good with walking away anyway.
Yeah, just finally bows out. Yeah.
Hmm.
I could see that. I could see that. Um
Yeah.
we obviously want to watch this Jolts opening on Tuesday. This is I wonder how impactful this will be, but everybody should probably remember that it was it was about the beginning of January that I think this sparked the major downturn. If I remember correctly, if you look at the Nvidia chart, for example, there was a job opening that came out at 10 a.m. that like literally when not long after Nvidia had broken all-time highs and like it tanked from there. I'll just change this chart because we got to talk about Elf next, but don't mind all these drawings. Yeah, this was it right here. So January 7th. So let's just really quickly open up this Jolts folder and you'll see here January 7th. So same day, January 7th right here. It actually had made the all-time high. It had gapped up and made an all-time high. And it flushed from there. And that was
Yeah, that was a really huge day just because looking at Nvidia's ATR in general or just actually looking at the candle sizes, like that was an epic day.
that was almost a 10% decline in one day.
Yeah.
So it'll just 5% right here. Say come on, 8.5% decline. It sparked a really 3.5 day drop of 23 points. So from 150 to 130 in 3.5 days by Friday's open. Or
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, by Monday's open. So that was pretty rough. That was pretty rough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And then closing out the week, I mean, we got Jolts, and then we have non-farm payroll on Friday. Another ISM services unemployment claims as every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. and then NFP on Friday.
Yep.
So gonna be a challenging week.
Yeah, but you know what was really interesting? I don't think we've talked about it yet. Is the courts ruling pretty much trying to block Trump's Liberation Day tariffs,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of set the market off into a pretty gnarly rally, which was given up and then some the next day.
Yes. Let's look at maybe just look at SPY for that. Probably less. I was gonna say there's less drawings on my SPY chart, but what day was that?
That big hammer candle, I'm sure. It's got to be that day. Because it was like on Tuesday, I think. Or wasn't it? Pretty sure it was. I thought it was Tuesday.
It was. We'll go to ES because I'll go to the futures. It was after hours that happened. I do remember that. Yeah, it was Wednesday.
I think Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Here's Nvidia
Wednesday.
earnings. We had Nvidia earnings right here, and it like wicked down, and then it finished the session closing upward, not too bad, right? And then then the news came out after hours, and then the market popped, and it gave it all back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, Trump knows.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, sure, they're gonna block it, but like, there's no way the administration is not gonna fight it too. And so, like, to me, it felt like no matter how much it pulls back, it's like some of the stuff has already been priced in, and then of
Mm,
course when it rips like that, people are like, maybe it's a sell the news situation, take advantage of like the euphoria. Oh, heck yeah, they're gonna undo all that stuff now that we're gonna make all new highs and stuff. And then the market makers are like,
mm,
suckers, and then they sell it and they rug pull everybody. But I don't know, like we're still pretty bullish long term. At least I am, because we've already bounced back from the basically 20% bull market low, and so like I don't know. It'd be interesting if we really did go back down. I just kind of don't imagine it happening
mm,
at this point,
mhm.
but it could.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely could. The now is a good time to buy tweet still remains undefeated and yielded you a 10% return on the market in, geez,
Yeah.
what was this? I'm sorry, 20% return on the market in about 40 days.
Yeah.
That's
And that's
absolutely,
like, as a whole, that's like the greatest pump tweet of all time. Like, sure, there's been penny stocks that have done far more
yeah.
remarkable things, but like just the market as a whole versus a single penny or whatever, that is wild.
Yeah, if you were a long-term investor, you'd be looking at this like, oh damn, like I'm happy to get 8% returns in a year and I just got 20% in 6 weeks. Like what the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, and how cool is it for the people that were like first time investors that just opened up their 401k or IRA or personal account just for some investing, and that happened? Like, wow, that's cool.
Yep. Yep. Lucky
But
them.
then potentially they get that mindset of, oh, this is easy. And
Mm,
then like they start trying to trade and then realizing, oh no, this trading is not easy. I just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
yep, that's definitely the ticket. That right place, right time.
Hmm.
For sure. Sure. The other thing that happened, I don't think we discussed it last week here, was that bond market sell off. So when the yields, whatever, went over 5%. So pretty sure it was a 20-year bond auction, basically saying, you're guaranteed over 5% or just about a 5% return every year for the next 20 years. So like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to be more risk off and allocate some of your portfolio to bonds, that's pretty awesome. Like you'd be like, okay, well, I'll take a third of it. Let's just say, arguments just sake, whatever. Now a third
Yeah.
of your money is going to yield you a 5% return guaranteed every year for the next 20 years. Like that's crazy. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because like, I mean, 5%, it's basically free money to do nothing. But, interest rates are still a little bit unreliable. Like we don't
Hmm.
know when things are coming up, when these are coming down.
Yeah. Yep. We don't. But even though we don't know everything, we don't know where things are going. If we look at this elf chart, bro, we knew where this one was going.
Yeah.
Well, new
And
in air
guys,
quotes.
Joe and I recorded a session earlier this week that we might post later. But there's gonna be times when him or I we won't be available,
Right.
and for like holidays or some vacation or something like that, and we want to have some kind of content that we're gonna put up. But man, we talked about this chart, and my reaction when I saw that, it was beyond my expectations.
For
I
real.
was thinking it was only gonna fill like to like what, $100, and then we like blew right through it. Oh man, that's a wild move.
I'm pretty sure I talked about something like hitting this $88 target, right? And so
Mhm.
we talked about it. There was the holiday, and so no market on Monday. This is Tuesday. We talked about it on Sunday. It was here, and I was just like, okay, like the way we look here, the way we came back up and reclaimed this golden zone of the gap down. I see this as the next potential move is it'll move up, and like I was thinking, it's depending, it's gonna move up and fall down, or like move up and just like rip, and it moved up, and I was thinking the initial target right here is this
Yeah.
line, and boom, it hit
Mhm.
it hit that and blew that target away the first day. The next day, leading into earnings, little consolidation here, broke higher, closed lower, kind of looks like really setting up that 3-bar play type of look, and then just enormous gap up here on earnings, and it gives you this like nasty looking upper wick with like super high volume, right? But then the thing that really kept me intrigued in order to just like stay in this trade like longer term and still think that this would be bullish is that it held the open, and ultimately, like, you know, it still held these lows, right? It still closed with a slightly higher low here, and then the next day it just chopped and consolidated and closed like, you know, a doji, but inside this day. So I'm definitely intrigued to see it, you know, hopefully break through this 120s area, but it's a post earnings gap setup now. So you have a sizable gap post earnings. You would, if it wants to trail off, I think you have that $100 whole dollar psych that could be a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we've always said in the past, not financial advice, but I got to know if there's anybody that watched this that decided to make their own thesis and take a trade or buy a position or calls or whatever on this, you got to let us know in the comments because we're happy for you.
Yeah. Sorry I had to yawn, but yeah, I'm super happy for you because I didn't play it.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about it, unfortunately, because I'm fairly sure that I made a comment about wanting to follow up on this and possibly add it to the long term. But you know, it's so many things and so many irons in the fire. Sometimes it's hard to remember all the different setups and things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I will add to it too, like just looking at, I'll make this like let's make this a different color here, like let's go purple. So when we gapped up from Friday into Monday, and then we came down and held like the golden zone of that gap and ultimately closed back up, you can see this even clearer like on a 10-minute chart.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this set up like many times. This is very bullish. And then look what happens. We break out of the 30-minute orb, which we talked about in many videos. We come down basically base on that 30-minute orb, right? Which, I mean, the 30-minute orb high is like right here perfectly. So we just barely don't tap it by like 2 cents, which is fine. But based on that 30-minute orb, and then just continue to rip the rest of the day, and like that was it. It was off to the races. So
yeah,
this was a really good play, really good play. Sad we missed 100%. It.
Mm-hmm. But there'll be another one.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But now with it being a post earnings gapper setup, 100 is on watch. I've got an alert set at 101. I want to see what happens and maybe how if there's any interaction when it comes down into this area, if it comes back. But like another inside day on Monday, because it does have the range here. Well, yeah, because the ATR is just about what this entire range was here. So another inside day on Monday, man, we could make this one like really explosive when it finally breaks, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I feel like it's, you know, we sometimes when we see these moves, we want like the moon, you know, the GameStop meme type of price action where, you know, it's going to go high. But given the volume and the size of that wick, there was a lot of people that wanted to take profit on that drawing that you have, which is lining up with previous days, like way past. So I could see us maybe retesting that and then, you know, taking a harder spill and then finally like maybe filling a gap before we go higher again.
Yeah, I feel like this is how a lot of people would draw supply zones. And they'll take like you would have a supply zone here, like the open of your last green candle to the pivot high, right? So like supply zone here and then supply zone here. And then other people call this order blocks, which, yeah, you know, I'm not going to go down that ICT rabbit hole today, but that's a made up term to steal how people just make their supply zones. But anyways, so like, yeah, like wicked over this supply, I wicked over this candle's high and it rejected and the sellers hit it hard, right?
Yeah.
So it's fine. Let's see what happens. Definitely see what happens on this one. Any other?
Can you pull up Coke really quick?
Which one?
KO.
Oh, KO. Coca-Cola.
Your favorite beverage?
Yeah. I need that button. You know, like Trump's got that button on his desk, dude. He presses a button and he gets a Diet Coke. I need that button, right? You know?
Yeah. Well, when we last talked, I was just looking at the chart, and I was saying we should talk about this later, but the move seems to already have been is already starting. But like I would just visually looking at like the daily and stuff, I kind of see like this sort of diamond pattern, diamond flag kind of look.
Like one of these.
Yeah. And we're already like kind of breaking out of that sort of.
Yeah, it's a little. That's a very crude diamond there. I apologize.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're we're just simple people and we like to make shapes out of things, whether it's clouds or charts, but like I don't know why, but those things they they mean something to us and they show us something and it's like
But
it just really looked like it was kind of setting up to make a move and um I know you're a huge Coca-Cola fan, so
yeah, you can
uh
see. You can see. I really nailed that Roth ad too.
yeah, you did.
Dude, you know what the funniest thing about this for me is, dude, is that like I've been trading. I mean, the first trade I took was in 2021 when I bought AMC.
Uh-huh.
And like what's the date? What's the week on this? Like this is no, it's not. Hold on a second. Bro, I basically, are you kidding me? I waited until Trump was back in office, the Diet Coke king, and then I finally bought some Diet Coke, which is like wild. I've been drinking Diet Coke for like a decade, dude.
Yeah.
Damn. I should have had some dividends by now.
Yeah, that's the other thing is it's a good dividend stock.
Yeah. 50. Look at this, man. I mean, and it's had a series of, I think that's what makes it an aristocrat stock, right? Is that it's had increasing dividends over a period of years as well, right? So we're up to 51 cents a share dividends. Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's it might actually be one of the very first stocks I ever like heard about or knew about because like I was a kid, I didn't know jack about the market in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember one of my best friends growing up, I guess his grandparents like gifted him a couple of shares of Coke.
Okay.
And so I mean I have no clue what I would imagine he's probably still holding on to it, but we're talking about the 90s. So he's doing all right.
Oh, I mean, even if he got his shares in '99, dude, he's up over 100%. But
Yeah.
dude, if he got these shares in like '92, he's up like 7x. That's pretty cool.
It could be. I feel like it was the early 90s.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but on the same token though, it's done some pullback since then too.
Yeah. The COVID, COVID being like the biggest one, but it was in a very serious looks like downward channel here for let's see, redraw his channel. Gosh, this was a long time, man. You're talking July of '98 until it finally broke out this is 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is though is that like as an investor, if you still believed in the company and you were like, okay, like it's fine, you're just DCAing into it and you're getting paid out the dividends, which I know it's been
apparently they weren't getting dividends back then.
Yeah, I wonder if this is just due to TOS not showing the data.
Yeah, I suppose it could be. But I wouldn't have known if they. Let's see, when did Coca-Cola start paying dividends?
I'm asking Grok. Who are you asking? Google?
I'm just asking the internet search. Yeah, I probably should have asked Grok because this is like, oh, the concept of paying dividends dates back more than 400 years. Yeah, well, I didn't ask about that.
So
I did. I didn't put Coke. I just put when did it start paying dividends.
Jesus. Dude, I got Grok says the Coca-Cola company started paying dividends in 1920, shortly after its initial public offering on September 5th, 1919. The company has paid a dividend every quarter since then and has increased its dividend annually since 1963, earning it the status of dividend king.
Nice.
That's it, man. Coke is king.
That's fantastic.
That's it. We have settled the Coke and Pepsi debate once and for all. Right here.
Okay, before we move on to this topic, you know what I do for my main line of work, and
Yeah.
to provide some anonymity.
Hmm.
Um, let's just pretend that I work for a company called Bevmo, Beverages and More. A lot of people know about that name, right? And so, you never heard of Bevmo?
Bevmo? No. Is that really a thing?
Yeah,
Or you just made this up?
Beverages and More.
No.
Okay, well, okay, let's do a different. Let's say Guitar Center.
Okay.
Well, the reason I wanted to do Beverages and More is
Yeah.
because of the kind of question that I get at work,
Okay.
and it's like, okay, hello, Beverages and More. How can I help you? And the question is, do you sell beverages? And you just want to like, okay, all right,
Dude.
we do, yes, we do.
It's like,
But then I get this one. You know how ubiquitous sometimes around the holidays that the panda or the polar bear is with Coke.
yeah, yeah.
So then the other question I would get would be like, yeah, so do you guys sell the red one with the polar bear? And I'm like,
Oh my
yeah, you mean
gosh.
Coca-Cola?
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh
Yeah,
my.
I don't know if it's Coca-Cola. It says the classic, and there's a polar bear.
Oh my god,
And I
dude.
gotta be like, help me, please.
Oh my god, dude.
I can only have so much patience.
Oh my god, dude. That is terrible. That is legitimately terrible, dude. I can see it though.
But
I can see it. I can see it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like calling up McDonald's and asking them if they have any French fries. Yeah.
yeah, people have lost the ability to like think that customer service agents have any form of intelligence to know about what you're asking. You have to like dumb it down for a kindergartner for them to understand what you're asking about. Sometimes it's a little too far, I
Mm.
gotta say.
You
Yeah.
you have also told me some wild stories, bro. I think that you have had the unfortunate luck of dealing with some people who might also be sub 100 on the IQ scale.
Yeah, but that can be me sometimes when my trading.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. I mean,
Mhm.
or just not even on the IQ scale altogether because I'm just not thinking. You know, I'm just like click. Ooh, I'm
Yeah.
just like looking at my mouse like, ooh, what's this button do?
This button make money.
Yeah, that's it. This button make money. This button lose money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. We did also to have the, like I mentioned earlier, we had the Nvidia earnings this week. This is the monthly chart. Oops. Go to the week. Weekly chart is very interesting.
Yep. This Nvidia, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Weekly chart is quite interesting. Yeah, the only thing that looks like the thing is on the daily, right? Like gapped up following earnings, sells off like more than half of that gap.
And last week you were, if I
Holds.
remember correctly, you were
Holds up.
drawing a like a flag on this one.
Yeah, I might have it on my. Yeah, I did. It was on my default one, so I'll just go
Hmm.
to like a clearer one. There it is.
There
This
we
is
go.
literally it right here. So yeah, it did.
Yeah. So we were saying potentially bearish, bouncing into emails most likely,
Mm-hmm.
and then have a really. It's weird though because like I don't know how much of the rally that we've seen on many instruments is because of the potential of tariff rollbacks, but the thing is, well, Nvidia would be highly impacted by that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's what throws a wrench in a lot of these big breakouts for me. It's like because of that news, like what's fundamental and what's speculative.
Right. Like what are everybody trying to price in? Apple's probably
Hmm.
the biggest one of this because
Yeah.
um their drawings. I have no idea why I want to be alerted when Apple breaks over here. I'll have to go back and research this. But yeah, Apple looks super interesting, man. There's a lot going on with Apple, which is like the market leader, right? With the tariffs like you're talking about. And then also like Trump is telling Tim Cook, don't make Apple phones in India, you know?
Hmm.
And then
Is that a Fibonacci like potential gap play for your
it,
draw or for your alert?
it
I think that might be it.
yeah, it looks like, okay, so we had this very large gap down here on what day are we at? That was 4/2. So this is like the tariffs are going to start, Trump's Liberation Day. The market closes, Trump speaks after hours, and we just have this enormous gap down. So this enormous gap down hasn't been filled. They came right up to the 50% mark of this gap, go figure, and then rejected off, sold back down considerably. And if I remember correctly, let me go to like a clear set and I'll just sort of like draw this out like fresh. So this is the gap we're talking about from here to here. See, we went like right into the 50% of that gap. Oh, I'm sorry. I drew that wrong. Here to here. Right to the 50%. So boom. Perfect rejection there. Right over the 50 EMA as well on the daily. And then if you look at from like where it made these lows to that rejection, you know, it came down almost about halfway. So even if you actually look at like this recovery move, held the 50% of that like almost perfectly. This huge recovery holds 50%, breaks back over the top, rejects, holds higher low, back to the top, same higher low, and here we are. Well,
Yeah. It's in an awkward spot because it's like it feels like it's a little bit too extended for the long position, but it's also like I wouldn't want to short it right now either. You know what I mean? Like the long we have 3 touches. Well, I don't know. I guess we can call those touches, but like you could see a triple bottom there. So I feel pretty bullish on it.
like, yeah, because of here, because it's holding this area.
Yeah, and like specifically that huge the third gap down candle or the third candle before on the gap down.
Yep.
Where your crosshair intersects. It's like it's showing support.
Yep.
On the open of that candle.
Yep. Yeah, basically right in here.
From April 4th was what I was thinking of, really. That candle.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Going back to here. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So that makes a lot of sense. So I guess in that respect, we're not in like super extended from that just based on the daily. So it'd be closer risk to go long off of that, and then targeting the the gap that you're expecting up there in like the 210s and so forth.
Yeah. And it is, it did close back over 200. 200 is a really important whole dollar cycle level, right? Like 100, 200 on Apple.
Yeah.
I think though, my main concern with this, especially like even if I just go to, a completely naked chart, like no studies, and I don't have EMAs, and I'm just looking at like the price action that is presenting itself on Apple, like this just looks like it's in sort of a choppy range, and you have obviously an air gap above, and you have very, very strong looking support below. I would say like based solely on this, because the EMAs are just chopping, they're crisscrossing, they're not offering any guidance. So throw them away. It looks like to me that if I had to make a decision, I would play long.
Can you load up the monthly real quick on that? Because like I was just trying to find a time frame that didn't feel particularly choppy, and it's like it's the weekly and monthly for me, and like the monthly shows a clear base over like August based on the current candle.
Yep, it's right here what you're talking about, right? Yep, I see that exactly. Let's bring that same chart down to the weekly. Yep, so correction, huge impulse move into the lows, right? Comes back down right into this area. Like, why is this important? This is last April. But yeah, came right back down into this area. Look how the bounce was. And it even here looks like kind of setting up like a recovery flag, right? Like here's a low, it goes up to here-ish. Now it's just setting up.
Yeah.
So I would think long. I would think Apple long. You know what I should do?
Yeah.
Is create drawing set. I'm gonna just when we start doing these, I'm just gonna.
Podcast drawing set.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh shit.
It only took us, 21 weeks to figure this out.
Hey guys, yeah, a bunch of rookies over here. But yep. Boom, there we go. So, and we're saying flag look on the
May as well put the date of the drawing too.
That's what I was just gonna do. Yeah, so it's 6/1. Boom. Yeah, we'll just keep doing these as they go, and we'll just come back and visit them. So I'll update I'll update the elf chart after, because now I'm curious what that one's gonna do. You watch this, dude. This is gonna be so funny. We're gonna have like repeated talks about elf in the coming weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's like, holy shit, we're making money on makeup, bro.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
It will be funny. It'll be funny out of all things. Like, not some flashy chip, not a new SMCI or nothing crazy. We're Palantir. Nope. We're on Elf.
Yeah.
Speaking of, though, didn't Ulta, dude, look at, whoa, bro.
Oh, yeah. Ulta had a nice play, too, for sure.
Yeah, Ulta is looks like it's post-earnings gap up. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
and on weekly and monthly, that just looks insane, too.
Yep.
But yeah, we could see the same flag there on Ulta on the daily.
Yeah,
as we saw like on NVIDIA and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, this is gonna look pretty crazy. Let's look at the daily with like the EMAs. Oh my god, dude. Oh, this was setting up for it. Look at this.
Yeah, and like on that, what is that, 200 EMA there? When that crosses with like what I think is maybe your 50, your blue teal line.
This one like, here is this is the 325. This is Oh,
that's your banana. Okay, well, it worked. But like when it intersects there, like over to the right, like basically all of like the second week of May. That was like a really solid base over like the prior gap from like February, and then kind of basing over like May 2nd.
Yeah, this one's definitely a post earnings gapper to watch. I would be curious and hopeful that, again, we had a lot of profit taking over the highs here. Oh, dude.
Oh, another gap?
Oh, wow. We're just rejecting them. So not even the middle of the gap. So just rejected inside of there. But it looks like we also rejected, like, where is this, like, low wick? Is this one it? Yep.
Okay.
Boom. This is crazy, dude. Alta's like a $500 stock.
Yeah, it's wild.
Let's see what happens though over the next few weeks, and let's see if even this week, if it just flags out and drifts sideways. Because I think if we can get it to continue to flag and drift, it'll show that it has room for more, right? Because what you're seeing there is more price acceptance and bulls stepping up, and the sellers not able to push down, and we get that compression, and then usually a lift. And I think
I love that Fibonacci that you drew there from like April 2nd of 2024, because like just we would want to see price respect like 470s on the low end, just from that open of that candle.
Yep.
Which also zooming left is like the gap up from December 2023. This stock loves to gap, bro. They need to hook, like, who's the parent company of Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, all that? Maybe they need to like hook up, because these guys are like Gap City.
Link up with all, dude. This was another earnings gap. This thing makes violent moves on earnings, bro.
Yeah,
like this earnings gap up here was $50.
We need to earmark Ulta and remind ourselves that earnings can be wild, because there's some follow-up trades to be made.
For real, dude. Like, you look at this earnings gap up. Like, it was curling up into the EMAs, gaps up, flushes, same day. Like, earnings gap and crap here. Earnings gap down here was massive, quick math in my head, sorry, $67. I mean, this is huge, dude. It made some crazy moves. So we'll just be watching this. I'll clean up these drawings, color them appropriately based off of the day of the week and everything, and what's filled. Just cut them off so they're not overlapping. But so we have this one on the future the future watch list for the pod. This is crazy, bro. We're talking about makeup.
Yeah, actually, we need to make a watch list specifically for podcast too, so that way
Yep.
we can easily flip through.
Yeah, I'll get on it. I'll get on it after this, and like, I won't like subject. We're already over an hour. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I know. We want to talk about some real estate stuff. We'll bump that off to next week because it's nothing critical, but maybe things will develop between now and then that might add more to that conversation.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think we should probably wrap it up right about now.
for sure, for sure. I think there's. I wanted to say there was another one that I was like looking at for the drift, and I think that Netflix is drifting. Not like I was talking about. There's.
I'm pretty sure we were talking about Tesla last week too. Did we not talk about it today?
We always talk. Yeah, I don't think we talked about it today,
Yeah.
but
Okay, so that had another flag set up too,
Mm.
but we've given back everything since then, at least since the bigger move.
yeah. So Tesla had a really bearish close on Friday, and I saw some posts that it looks like there was talk about the board wanting Elon to put in 40 hours a week at Tesla, and then talks about like finding a potentially viable replacement for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the market didn't like that.
Yeah.
Like look at this close. And
Yeah, pretty wild.
when you look at Friday's charts as a whole, right? Like this is the one thing when I was looking at like recovery stocks, not recovery stocks, but stocks that were recovering as the overall market made, if we look at SPY, for example, the overall market made a huge V-shaped recovery and like ended up making new highs after that first sell-off, right? And a lot of other names, like you have Meta, look, same thing, Meta, closed near high of day. Apple pushed, Microsoft pushed, right? AMD had a decent recovery. Nvidia didn't recover, right? But I was watching Nvidia and watching Tesla because I was like, man, like, why are these guys like not pushing as the whole market is pushing? These are going nowhere. And then this last 10 minutes, dude, jeez, dude, they gave back $7 in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
quite the divergence for sure.
no bueno.
But all right, what do you say we wrap it up on that one?
I'm good if you're good.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch y'all in the next one.
Oh yeah. See you later, everybody.
Like and subscribe.
Right.
Bye.